So welcome everyone. I am Raffaele Garofalo. I work in AWS Switzerland in Zurich, and my role is a solutions architect. So that means I'm a technical advisor. And in this talk today, I will show you actually one of our white papers, which has been built by looking at how customers move from standard infrastructure to cloud and how that affected their operating model. So the idea of this talk is not to tell you how you should build the cloud operating model. It's more like a guidance based on what we saw with other customers, majority are enterprise company. So it's more to give you the idea of what we think was the most successful way between all those customers adopting a cloud operating model. It doesn't fit everybody at the same way. So that's why it's a guidance and it's just prescriptive. So first step is moving to cloud. So I'm in the company and I decide to move to cloud. CTO decide to move to cloud. So first of all is why the company decide to move to cloud today. On top of what happened with COVID, so the need of being remote and have more service available immediately from remote connections, there are 5 drivers the enterprise company use today to move to cloud. The first one is agility. And the agility, you have to see it in the sense of when I'm on cloud, I can quickly spin up a new technology, a new service, make a POC, turn it off without dealing with licensing, dedicated on-prem resources, dedicated people that know how to run that service. I give you a very famous example is majority of the financial services in Switzerland now, they're leveraging machine learning. And machine learning is not something that you can create a VMware server on your on-prem infrastructure, install a software, and then you can do a project on machine learning. But if you think about it, if you adopt cloud technology, any provider, with machine learning, you can simply check API of one of the existing services, and that take you probably 10 minutes. So that's the agility part. The cost saving, which I see on the internet a lot of debates about it. So cost saving is based on 2 different factors. The first one is on cloud, you have a different concept. It's a different model, which is called pay as you go. So in reality, it's a bit like instead of buying the car, you rent the car, but you don't keep the car when you don't need it. The idea is I know that Saturday morning I'm going to grocery with my wife and my kids. So Saturday morning, 9 a.m., I want a car ready outside of my house. And if you think about it, you have already a pay-as-you-go model at home, because when you turn on the electricity, in reality, when you turn on the light, you pay the electricity from the moment that the light is turned on until it is turned off. So that's one part of the cost saving, which requires reorganization of the mindset in the company. Because the company today has an on-prem system that runs 24/7. The second part is operating model. Because now you have a pay-as-you-go model, so not everything is up and running all the time. There is a cloud provider that do that for you. You also require less resources to ensure that the services that you need are up and running all the time. So that's where it comes the cost saving. The elasticity, these go into the capacity area. So in the standard enterprise company, every year, around September, October, there is what is called budget allocation. How much hardware do we need next year? How much money do we need to invest to renew the hardware that, for example, is 3 to 5 years old? So I have to renew that hardware. That elasticity is not possible on-prem because you have to forecast upfront the amount of hardware that you need for the next year. With cloud, it's a completely different mindset because in reality, cloud is elastic by default. If you look at AWS, for example, every single service starts with the E, which means elastic. So you can have one virtual machine, for example, hosting a website. And if the workload increases, the cloud provider will increase the amount of virtual machine hosting your website, and it's full automated, right? You don't have to log into the cloud provider and say, hey, I want now 3 servers because I have 1 million users hitting my website. It's all automated. So that's the elasticity part. Innovation, many companies need to innovate, especially in the financial sector in in Switzerland, we just saw now in this conference a talk about cryptocurrency, right? So cryptocurrency, if you want to start to use blockchain, you need blockchain service. And that innovation part, it's very difficult to achieve on an on-prem system. You need to leverage online services that allow you to build the software on top of the blockchain. So that's the innovation. Or machine learning is another part, or medical advisory, it's another area, or IoT. All those areas I can see, for example, that in Switzerland now have a momentum. And then the global footprint. When you have an enterprise company that has both employee and customer across the globe, it's important that you have a global footprint, which means it's important that what was before your data center is now available in multiple regions of the world. Multiple reasons. We saw with COVID, we saw it now with there is a war ongoing. So maybe a certain area of the globe now is affected. And if your data center is solely there, you may have an issue. But also, if you think about it, on the global distribution of services, I have a commercial website and my customers are in Asia. My data center is in Switzerland. So there is a lot of delay for my customers to be able to interact with my website. So with cloud, you can have global footprint. You can have an instance of that website in Asia data center, which is close to the customer consuming the service. So that is why customers want to move to cloud. It's the top 5. It doesn't mean that if you don't have one of these top 5 reasons, you don't move to cloud, but this is what we see, the 5 main drivers. Second problem, the customer see that one or more of these 5 drivers are part of their business plan, so they want to move into cloud. But the second, let's call it not mistake, but the second wrong approach in the mindset of customers that we noticed is, instead of thinking like, now I'm moving to cloud, so I have to switch my organization mindset, they say, well, I have an ecosystem. And what I see is cloud is a new technology for me. So let me put that new technology on top of my complexity. So what happened in that case is that the customer doesn't get the value of cloud. It actually increases even further the complexity of the landscape, because you have already a landscape, which is quite complex. On top of it, you put cloud, which has a completely different way of being operated. So you extend further the complexity. So the white paper of AWS come up with what we call the cloud enablement engine. So if you think about financial company, the banks call the various area of the bank's division, and the insurances call it business unit. So you need to think about CE as an additional business unit. It's not part of IT, it's not part of cost center, it's not part of group operation. It's a separate entity. They run autonomous, but it needs some levers. So the CE is an organization within the company that will drive the entire organization into the cloud. So not only IT, there are different areas. So if you look at this slide from bottom going up, CE need 3 levers. First of all, is a new area. So you need funding, and that go through sponsorship. But who is going to sponsor this new area of the company? Well, it's going to be all the other area that somehow we get the benefit from moving into the cloud. The second part is baking. Baking in the sense of, I believe in this vision, I believe in this project. So another thing that we saw it's crucial is that when you spin a CE organization in your existing company, there must be a vision, and all the sponsor of this vision need to also bake that vision. So they need to believe in that roadmap, because it's not a roadmap that happens in a few weeks or few months, right? There are companies that take 4 or 5 years to say, I am now mature enough to declare that I'm running my system on the cloud. It's a bit like when you adopt ITIL or ISM, right? There is a maturity journey and it takes years. The last part is the federation. When CE start to get a certain amount of demand, it's important that there is a trust between CE and the other area of the company where CE can federate certain activities. I will show details about this part. Then the second layer is foundational capabilities. So what is supposed to provide CE? I'm building now a new operating model. So it's not only about, hey, I got a ticket in the IT system, can somebody look at it? It's the whole organization change. So the foundational capabilities the CE need to provide are related to business. How do we now put business value in a product because that product is on cloud? The people, because people need training, need to be aware of what it means now to run platforms on the cloud, or what the cloud offers to the company to provide business value. The governance has quite a heavy change compared to the standard on-prem governance of resources, service, but even providers that help you to build software, for example. Platform, you're going to deal with a lot more platform. If you look at AWS, we offer more than 200 services. So you need to know, like, but of these 200 services, do I need to know all of them? Or maybe 5 of them are enough for my company. Security, now with cloud, that security mindset is not more complex, but you need a complete different switch. And then operation, because the way you operate software on the cloud, the way you operate infrastructure on the cloud is different than the way you do it on-prem. A very funny example that we always make is on cloud, you cannot go into the data center and unplug the cable and say, all right, I turn off everything, the virus is not going anywhere. So there is a very different way of operating. And then the critical part, which is the layer that sit on top of CE, need to transform not only IT, because IT, yes, the technology, now we are going to have cloud services, but also the process, because now the way the company think about providing business value need to change. The organization, because the organization now is not anymore top-down. You have a parallel organization, which is CEE, that is telling you how the company will be transformed in HR, in IT, in finance, all over. And then the product. So in the transformation domain, for this specific cloud operating model that I show you, we think about a product service catalog. Then, when this is clarified, we see another problem. So if you look at here, in reality, what happened is when you spin CE, you have provided funding, you have provided people, you have provided an organization, and now you're saying, yeah, but I don't see the value. So on the left side, these are the 4 values that we see when a CE organization is successful in the company and the cloud operating model is implemented correctly and the maturity level reach a certain point. So there is reduction in downtime, there is more efficiency, there is reduction in time to deliver, and there is reduction in operational costs. Those number is the average number that we see across thousands of customers that went through survey when we built this white paper. On the other side, we also notice that some customers say, yeah, but I have a very efficient operating model that I run in 20 years. I have an organizational structure that I don't want to debate because it works. It works until today. So I'll carry over my way, but I want to use cloud. And that's when we see, for example, bill shock, because we see company doing what we call the lift and shift. They have virtual machine running on-prem 24/7, so they spin virtual machine running on cloud 24/7, and maybe they even go multi-region because they say, I want to be sure that the virtual machine is always up and running. Operational outage, because there is not that switch of mindset of how you operate services that you have on the cloud. For example, if something is unsecure on a cloud provider, the cloud provider will turn it off for you, right? So all these mechanisms now need to be part of how you operate the company. Security and data breaches, the fact that you can innovate, the fact that you can easily create new services with new operating system, with new technology, with new version of a framework, also increase the range of security detection that you have to apply now to your technology landscape. And then stall project, dream landscape, because what happened is there start to be clash between, the IT try to drive the cloud adoption and the business not seeing the value in it. So that's the part. So here now, I try to give you the picture. Why a customer want to use cloud, what we think would be the correct way to set up a parallel stream of people that are involved on business side, IT side, security side, finance side. And then, so how do I measure the successful of this cloud operating model. Now, what I will show you is what is called the switch of mindset between service and products. So the first change that needs to be applied is to go into a product-based delivery. And usually in this talk, I give you the example of Amazon.com, how they switched 10 years ago from a system to a product. And then I will show you that type of structure. So what does it mean, a product delivery? So we say that we have CE now, is an organization, is away from IT, is away from business, is a separate things. And they have products. So what that means? It means that CE need to be grouped into different sub-entities that have products that are interconnected to each other. So that a specific group of people, that doesn't mean they're only IT people, right? They are IT people, finance people, business people, you name it. All together, they are part of a product. If I give you a very abstract example, if you think about a CE at the beginning, they will have 4 or 5 products. Compute. So this team will deliver any kind of product that is compute, virtual machine, container services, serverless technology. Then you will have a product called storage. And this team will deliver you virtual hard drive, blob storages, object storages, you name it. Then you will have a database product, which will give you all the services related to database. So non-relational database, relational databases, analytics tool, reporting tool. But as you can see now, when you spin all of them, in reality, they need to collaborate to each other, these products. So that's why here, the diagram show you that now a team become a consumer and a provider. So if you think about it, compute team, I deliver compute services to the company. I am a provider of compute services, but you cannot spin a virtual machine without a hard drive. So I need to be the consumer of the storage team that will give me the specific storage that is most convenient and performant for the company. So by having this switch of mindset, what happened is that the team that you build around the cloud operating model, they know actually what are their duties because they perform a constrained number of common tasks. So they get specialized in that area. The second part is they have their own input and output. I manage compute services. So I know that you can only ask me change requests or you can raise ticket when it's related to the compute services that I give you. And it's the same with the output. I know that I can set up a roadmap of the services related to compute that I will give to the company. You are useful now to multiple customers. Why? First, you are separated. So your consumer can be business, can be IT. On the other side, your consumer can be other products within the CE organization. And then you can continually improve. Why? Because you're a provider. So when you are a provider, the first things that you get is customer feedback. Hey, you gave us this compute service, but the virtual machine, there are only 3 different sites. We need 32 CPU. So get the feedback, improve the service that you provide in the compute product, deliver a new virtual machine instance. Now, this transformation to become a product-based organization requires 6 steps. And the 6 steps that I will show you, they are the way AWS work with the customer. So to understand a bit this flowchart, I know that the speak is only 30 minutes, so I have a detail of each one, but I will try to give you first the generic picture. And then if there is time, I will also show you each one. But the idea here is, first of all, work backward. So work backward is the mantra of Jeff Bezos. And this is what we use in AWS. So when we approach a customer, the first question that we ask is, what problem are you trying to solve? Because if cloud is not for you a driver to solve a problem in the organization, then probably cloud is not the solution for you. So the first step is the organization need to go from imagining to knowing. So that means the CE has to work with all the area of the company to say, well, but now let's stop imagining how it would be the dream landscape of the company. But like, let's know what are the problems today in our operating model, where we see lack, where we see things not working correctly. And let's define a roadmap to know how we solve today's problem. First step. Second step, you re-envision how the company is structured. You don't go anymore into systems, you go into products. So you don't have any more teams based on the finance analytics team, the e-commerce development team. It's more like into products. So it's single entity autonomous that deliver business value in an agile way. So very, very often. Then you need to organize team. Today, standard company, they are activity-based. And I think all the people attending today that come from IT, you know what that means. It means an email, you have a backlog of activity, you get escalated, someone has an emergency. It needs to be done within an hour. And what happened is that over time, everyone has an emergency. So your day become activity-based. Like first come, first serve, or firefighting. You need to change that by going into product-based team. So a product-based team is a team that, yes, of course, they will get activity-based, but just for the product. So they have more control of how to juggle between incident coming in and the product roadmap, because they only manage the product. Then, as a consequence, you go from bring the team to work to bring the work to team, which means right now, the approach of standard enterprise company is let's try to fill the gap because we see a higher demand in operations. So let's try to see how quickly we can find L1, L2 resources. But that's not the correct mindset with cloud operating model. It's more like bring the work to the team. So specialize the team on certain things and then redirect the demand to the specific team. You reduce the risk. This is just like, because from large batch of activities, you have specialized team. That team now is specialized on a product. So they know what could be the risk around that product. So the batch of activities that they work on become a lot narrower. So the risk is reduced. And then there is ownership, which is this word that I love. So ownership means now the team is owner and accountable for the whole life cycle of the product. While normally in standard team, well, this is the development team of the e-commerce, but the website is down. Yeah, but it's not our responsibility because that's the infrastructure team that run the infrastructure. Try to see with them what is going on. While here, the mindset switch is like you own the e-commerce. You run it, you change it, you patch it. So there is the full ownership. And these are the 6 steps. Now, I see that I am on 24 minutes. So what I want to show you is really like a flyover of every single step. I think the first part here, discussed it already, but just to give you the long story short, if you look at the AWS white paper, you will find something called CAF, which is the Cloud Adoption Framework, which is actually this slide here. What does it do, the Cloud Adoption Framework? It's based on this mantra that we have, which is called customer obsessed. So our objective, our KPI as people that work in Amazon is always to ensure that is the customer satisfied with what I gave to them, because that's the key. So with this cloud adoption framework, it's actually going through the working backwards. So what problem do you have? If I solve that problem, what business value do I give you? And this is the first step to change the operating model. Second step, what I told you before, what Amazon has done. So before, let's say 2000 and something, right? I don't remember the correct dates. The e-commerce, but any kind of software was more like into layers. So there is the team that work on the API, there is the team that work on the user interface, the team that manage the database, and the team that manage security. Now, what was the problem there? The problem was I work on the API. Every single time I made a change, I am affected by an approval from the database team. Because if they don't approve my change, they don't change the schema, I can't deliver my API. So that thing doesn't scale and is not agile because there is no independent team. Then switch of mindset. Why don't we build products? So now today, if you open Amazon.com, what you will see is there is a button called one-click buy. That button for us is a product. So that button, despite the complexity behind the button, has a team that work on the API, on the database, on the user interface, on the security of that single area. And they are fully independent. So they don't depend from anybody else around. They want to deliver a new capability that when you click that button, maybe a pop-up tell you, hey, I saw that you didn't buy this product that you buy every month, right? So that kind of functionality would be ownership of the one-click buy team. And that team has its own budget, roadmap, so they are independent and become provider and consumer. So the goal is to move away from having a system. You have to create a collection of products, what we call a service catalog. And then those products provide services, and the product need to be aligned to each other. So that's the second key. Then organization, but what kind of people do I put into CE? That's the most common question that we get. So we see two layers. The CBO, Cloud Business Office. You probably, if you work in enterprise today, you have that naming. I saw it here in Switzerland in the various financial company. And this is the responsibility of CBO. So what they do, it's actually, what they have to do is they have to define how, from an architecture point of view, until how you manage it, how you train people, how you provide funding, so how the CE is going to execute. The other part, you need the doers. Where are the doers? Who is going to provide this product? That's the second layer called Cloud Platform Engineering, which you can divide in three different macro areas. The infrastructure team, so the one that provides the services. So you can think of the infrastructure will have multiple products in there. It's not one product, right? It's a group of products. So infrastructure team will have multiple products based on the services that they provide. The operation team will have multiple products, because the team that take L1, L2 tickets is not the team that run DevOps pipeline. And then the security team. So even there will be a segregation of product. The security that tell you what security to apply, and the security that acts when the security is not applied. So here is the biggest transformation. Then you need to scale. So this is the maturity level. You start with a foundational team. So a set of people that look at those four key: viability, desirability, feasibility, and operability of what? Of CE, of the products that you want to give to the business, of the cloud transformation. When that is in place, you want to scale. How you scale? You subdivide and specialize. You start to create product owners. You start to create multiple architect and engineers team that specialize in the products. And then when you scale further, what you do is you have to start to look more deep into the financial aspect of the transformation, and you need to federate. So I will skip a couple of slides. I want to show you, because that's the question that I think I would like to answer is, this is the maturity level. So you start with sustain. What that means. In your company, you have itSM. If you build software, you have something like that. You have ISM. There are multiple flavors, but you have a workflow in place. And there is a segregation. There is the people that manage the application, the people that operate the application, the people that manage the cloud, and the people that operate the cloud. Now, if you want to optimize, you go into what is called infrastructure as code, CI/CD, DevOps automation. There are many flavors. But you come up with two layers. So the application engineering and the cloud platform. Then you go into the dream landscape. We see some customers there where the team is fully independent. What that means, I have the e-commerce. My team is capable to create new services on the cloud, use it, ensure that we comply to what CBO tell us in terms of security, cost, you name it, but we are fully independent. And yeah, so this is all overall. I really try to shrink it. Usually it's 1 hour, but then maybe if you have questions, I think that you just have to speak up because remotely I see the presentation. So questions, if you want to contact me directly, those are my emails. If you want to provide a feedback about this, or if you want to, suggest something, you can scan it and there would be like a text box where you can tell me actually what you think or, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Raffaele. We have a question from the audience.
Hi, Raffaele.
Hi.
We know that cloud is the solution, but I know I want to know what you think about companies that after a period decide to leave cloud to go back to on-prem.
Well, I think it depends. I would not provide a personal feedback. If you look at actually one of the first slide, it's usually that happen when they fall into the right bucket. So what they do is they jump on cloud, but they don't set up correctly the operating model. I think that when you transform a company, the first part is not deciding which services or which cloud provider you're going to leverage, but is how you're going to transform the company. And that I think is one of probably the major driver of company going away from the cloud because they don't see the business value or they get the bill shock or they not have the capability to, run cloud services because you need also new knowledge, right? It's just one of the many things that you need.
Okay, thank you.
Raffaele, another question from the audience. What do you think about the multi-cloud is measured, not for cloud perspective, but for, so companies, no, companies are ready to receive or start to deal with a multi-cloud journey?
Well, it's a debatable topic. So let me give you the picture of me working in Switzerland for financial company. And I would say majority of the active financial company on cloud, they are multi-cloud, all of them. This is to mitigate the risk. You mitigate the risk of what? Of one of the cloud provider going bankrupt. It's a remote risk, but as a financial company in Switzerland, you are regulated, you have to. That's one topic, right? So why in Switzerland, the financial company are multi-cloud? They have to, they don't have an option. They also have what is called exit plan. It's part on Finland. So exit plan means what happens if you do all the trading in Bloomberg and Bloomberg go bankrupt? How you're going to do the trading, right? So it's a mandatory step for financial company. That's one part. Second part is multi-cloud, but why? So let's go with the working backward. Why do you need it? A cloud provider is multi-region by nature. So if it's about SLA, if it's about resilience, you don't need multi-cloud. Why do you need multi-cloud? Because one cloud provider gives you services that the other doesn't. Today, there are 5 major cloud providers, and I think they all give the same services. So that even would be quite debatable. It depends on the reason. I see all the customers that I have, they're all multi-cloud, all of them. So I don't see why not, but my question would be why? What are you trying to solve by being multi-cloud?